Yes, down here at the West Adelaide Footy Club Room, you wouldn't believe it, the best snooker hall in the Southern Hemisphere and one of the greats of Australian sport. Ian Chappell's down here. Chappell, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Phil. Yeah.
Now, mate, why would we find you in a snooker hall in South Australia?
Well, when I lived here, I was a West Adelaide supporter, so that could have been the reason I came here, but it's not. When I left school and went to work, like a lot of guys, I wasn't all that keen on work, so I used to fit in a bit of snooker instead of working. Got really keen on the game, bought a cue, and then when I was on tour, I used to play a lot with Brian Tabor, who was a very good player. And then when Tabsy retired, there wasn't anyone else to play with, so I sort of got out of the habit a bit. Then played a bit of golf, and then I played a bit of tennis, and one day the elbow went. I couldn't play tennis anymore, and I happened to look in the wardrobe and I saw the cue there, and I thought, why don't I get back into that? Yeah. And the last 3 or 4 years, I've really got into it.
All right, so you're the patron for Snooker SA.
Yeah.
Tell me how that happened.
Well, actually, it's for Australia.
Oh, for Australia?
Wide. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Bob Hawke was the patron before, but Bob retired, I think, I'm not sure what the reasons were. And it just happened to retire at the time I'd played Matthew Bolton, who was an Australian champion. I played him in Perth at his father's home. They got a table there. Matthew's a mate of Sean's, and he told Sean that I was pretty keen on snooker. Next time I'm in Adelaide, why don't you get me down here? That just happened to be at the time when Hawkey had retired as the patron, and they said, "What about you?" And I thought, well, yeah, why not?
Well, there's no chance of you being Prime Minister then?
No, definitely not. No.
Mate, I've got to ask you, I come in and you're working on your game pretty hard, and it's always been the way with you, highly competitive. How do you go when you're just having is there such a thing as a social game of snooker for you?
I don't know that I've played a lot of social sport in my life, yeah. I mean, people used to, when I retired from cricket, why don't you play? I don't want to play. Why don't you play social cricket? Mate, it's not a social game, no. Every now and again I'll have it, just knock it around with some mates, but I prefer to, if I'm playing, I prefer to be, mainly because I figure I haven't got a hell of a lot of time and I want to get better, and I don't see much point in just messing around if I'm trying to get better.
Do you reckon snooker's one of those games that you can improve? Age isn't going to be a barrier?
Well, I got better as a tennis player. I mean, I didn't start playing tennis until I stopped playing cricket. So I was 36, 37 when I started to really play tennis, and I got better at it. So I don't see any reason. And I feel like I've got better at snooker. Put it this way, I know more. Sometimes that can be a hindrance as well, because you then know what can go wrong. And it is a very precise game. I mean, I always thought that golf was probably the most difficult and precise game that I'd played. You can hit one off the inside edge a bit in cricket, and it doesn't, as long as it doesn't get caught, it doesn't cost you. But, you hit one off the inside edge at golf, or you hit one off the inside edge at snooker, it doesn't do you a lot of good. So very precise game, and also probably, again, a little bit like golf, it's because you're basically playing yourself. There's no wind or anything else to blame. It's a stationary ball, it's down to you. It can also be very frustrating like golf.
All right, a little bit, I'm not a snooker expert like yourself, mate, but it looks like the stance is pretty important. So you've talked about stance in cricket, obviously, stance in golf, stance in snooker, all completely different?
Yeah, they're different, but the same principle. One, you've got to be comfortable, but two, if you've got a good setup in any of those sports, it definitely gives you a chance of playing better. Obviously, there have been guys who've had unusual stances. Shivnarine Chappell from the West Indies is a classic example. Very successful. And there are always exceptions to rules, but you give yourself your best chance if you do as many things right in your setup as you possibly can.
All right, now we interrupted a game, mate. You're playing James over there. Now, James said that he was clearly winning. Yeah. Is that a true story or not?
Well, he's former Australian champion, so he should win. Unless he's going to give me a 100 start. I hope he's listening. He might feel favourably inclined towards giving me a 100 start, but he's been very helpful. He's given me some very good tips. I've been down here about 3 or 4 times now, and he's been very helpful, as Sean. So hopefully they're sinking in. That's you know, it's one
Retention's
thing
the problem.
hearing them, yeah, it's another thing to get them to sink in up here.
Chappell, always great to see you in Adelaide, mate. Thanks for your time. I know you're
Pleasure.
a busy bloke. James doesn't clean you out too much. We'll take a break. Back with more in a moment.